Greetings and salutations. Welcome to another episode of 365 Days of Gaming. Appreciate you taking our time to check out the video. Like, comment, share, subscribe. All those things are greatly appreciated. Let's not wait around. We're talking about Batman today. And not only are we talking about Batman, we're talking about Michael Keaton Batman, one of the best versions of Batman. We're talking about the highlight of the Batmans with Michael Keaton, Batman Returns for the Super Nintendo. So now that we're talking about Batman, this game is one of those video store games, right? This is a rental because I never actually owned this version of Batman. I only rented it, but it was one of those, if I don't have anything else to pick, it's a fail-safe game. Like, I know it's going to be solid. It's a beat 'em up, so it's already got points for that. And it's based on the movie that I liked as a kid, so it's got points for that, right? And it's just a very, very solid, well-designed game all the way around. It's not the easiest, it's not the hardest. You know, the only thing that's kind of whack was a single player, but, you know, there's no Robin in the Batman Returns movie, and this is purely based on the actual Tim Burton movie. So it's like, all right, cool. Now you're going to be fighting a bunch of clowns because, you know, basically the remains of the Joker still around. But then you fight different types of enemies. Like, there's the bigger ones that you got more health and they do different types of attacks. You got people shooting rocket launchers, and Batman has a few different gadgets that he can use. Basically, you got the Batarang, and then you have the bat grapple hook. And then one of my favorite things you could do in this game is you could throw the enemies to the glass and the glass will break and it does extra damage. I always thought that was pretty cool as a kid. You can slam the heads of the enemies together and that's always neat. And the stages kind of change as you go along, so you don't just do the beat 'em up style. You get to certain areas and you start using these batarangs to fight stuff with. And these levels are actually harder than the beat 'em up ones because you can't really hit stun anything. It's either it like beats them or they take multiple hits, and anybody that takes multiple hits, a lot of times it's hard to hit them twice. But it's a cool game. I always enjoyed the changing up of the stages. We even got some platform stuff that goes on in them. And if you watch the movie, it pretty much just follows the movie exactly. So, you know, you beat a level and they'll have some sort of still image from the movie that they show. But you got to beat the bosses to get to the next parts. And some of these bosses, like, as you can see, either I don't know what to do or they just take a lot of damage, because they do the old school beat 'em up thing where instead of showing that the boss has multiple life bars, they just change colors as you knock each one of them off. So you don't really know until you get to the last bar what kind of health each person has, which could be kind of cool, but also irritating because I want to know how close I am to beating the boss. It kind of fires me up when I know I'm getting close and I'm making progress. But the other cool thing I thought about this game is, like, in the background, right, you have actual people running around. A lot of times these Batman games, it'll make you seem like there are no regular citizens. It's only criminals and Batman. And I thought it was a nice little, you know, visual touch to have actual, like, citizens running around here. It does the thing too with the high score where you can get multiple one-ups. I don't know, we call them free mans where I'm from. Extra lives, if you will. Any sort of variation of that. Like I said, it's not the most in-depth game. Batman doesn't have like 30 different moves or anything like that, but you still feel like Batman. You feel pretty strong. You know, whatever comes your way, you're able to deal with it. And that's the basis of Batman. I always thought Batman was also really good for games because he doesn't have a bunch of powers. He has more like tools. So it's easier to show the hand-to-hand skill without making it seem preposterous. Like Death and Return of Superman, you're playing with different variations of Superman, but you're fighting regular enemies. And it's like, well, Superman can just like breathe on these people and kill them. But Batman, you know, he's got to give at least a few punches and kicks before he can just knock somebody out. So I always thought that was a pretty cool thing. When it gets to the platforming section, it's kind of a change of pace, and it reminds me of the Spider-Man games that were on the SNES and Sega, where you had to start climbing stuff, and you're like, all right, well, this game ain't really designed for that, but we'll just make it work. And I kind of forgot what you're supposed to do on one part, so I ended up dying and having to continue. And then I realized this game has continues, and not like the terrible ones, not the best ones like the beat 'em ups where you can continue right as you're playing, but you know, you start to level over. That's pretty good. It doesn't start you at the beginning of the game or nothing crazy like that. So, you know, we'll take those. But as you get to the bosses, you start to realize that the bosses do like a crazy amount of damage, and they're very hard to deal with. Like, I'm fighting Catwoman, and she is just giving me the beats. Like, I'm hitting her and doing damage. She hit me like one time, take like 90% of my life. It is crazy, the scaling. But I guess that's to compensate for the fact that, you know, the game doesn't have a lot of super in-depth gameplay. Also, the back grapple hook uses health when you use it too, so that's another kind of messed up thing that I didn't realize it was too late. And I used all my special moves earlier, so I didn't have any big explosion tubes when I got to it. That was my fault. You know, I was getting a little overzealous with the use of those. I figured they'd give me more, but they didn't. But the game is like I said, it's not super in depth, but it's fun, and it was very rare for single player beat 'em ups to be enjoyable when I was a kid. And this was like the first time where I'm like, oh, okay, I can play through this and not need anybody. You know, it was designed well enough. This and the Aliens vs. Predator for SNES were two good examples, because for some reason they ported the arcade game of that, but also made a single player. I thought that was wild. But, you know, this is going to be the first of many Batman games that we will see, or at least DC based games. Don't worry, DC's going to get some love. But I wanted to start with this one first. And if you played this game, or you're just a fan of the Batman Returns movie, as you should be, please let me know your thoughts on this game or the movie. I appreciate you checking out this video. Be safe, have fun. Peace.